Hi there, and thank you for tuning in. I'm out here on a beautiful day. As you can see, the sun is coming through the treetops, and it's been really great weather the last few weeks here in Copenhagen, but today we have a bit of sunshine. The subject for this video is for landscape photography only. So the Z6 and the Z7, they offer a technique called focus shift, where the camera takes a series of images while it pushes the focus point further and further away, and you can then take those images and stack them and ask the Photoshop to pick the sharpest pieces of these images. And what you get out of that is an image that is sharp from front to back, or has a almost indefinite depth of field. It's not going to be a tutorial. What I want to show you is, or what I want to figure out is, can I do this with my Nikon D750? Or is it completely impossible for me for landscape photography to do exactly what the Z6 and Z7 cameras do? So let's go and find out. So here we are at a beautiful scene, and one of the advantages of shooting during winter time is that the sun stays low in the horizon. During summer, it rises and drops like a rocket and a stone. But here I have plenty of time. This is 11 o'clock in the forenoon. I have plenty of time to see the sun coming through the trees over there. And I really enjoy scenes like this. I was actually planning to have you behind me so you could see what I was doing, but the sun is right in my face, and it makes it a little bit difficult to see what's going on. So hopefully this will work. The thing is that I mentioned there are good tutorials on YouTube about how to set up the camera and so on. There's one thing I will mention though that these tutorials do not mention, and that is you need to have a lens that has no focus shift. Focus shift is when you focus at different areas, it looks like your lens is zooming in and out. And of course, if you have several images like that, then it won't work, because it would be very difficult for the software to merge those images in a meaningful way. Another thing is that you should set your aperture to an area where you know the lens is sharp. In my case, I'm shooting here with the 16-35, and I'm setting it to f8 because I know it's really sharp there. So find a good middle of the road. Don't shoot at f22. Don't shoot at f1.8 or whatever you got. Make sure you're shooting at a good aperture where your lens is sharp. So let me just set this up and get going. I start with the Z6 Mark II. It's also applicable for the Z7. And let's just see. I've set it up so that I can hear what the camera is doing. And let me just get cracking here. Now it's preparing. You can hear it took 4 shots. You can set it up to how many shots you want it to take, say up to 100, I think it is. But just set it to a very high value. The camera will stop when it reaches infinity. So there's no need to worry about taking too many shots. In my experience, it takes a little bit too many shots, especially when it gets to infinity. And you will see that in the post-processing. Also, in the best of worlds, you would be shooting on a tripod, but I had to carry a lot of gear today, so I left the tripod at home. But of course, a tripod is number one. And when you're out and shooting and it is this cold, then of course also it's a good idea to bring a pair of gloves, which I'm happy to say I remembered today. So my trusty Nikon D750, and I'm in manual mode. I can see that I'm way overexposed here, so I'm just taking down the ISO and see what that does. Again, around f8 will do. The reason why I'm shooting in manual mode on the Nikon D750 is you want to maintain the same exposure throughout the images. On the the Z6, I have put it so that every image is taken with the same exposure, and that's a parameter you can set up. I don't think it will look good if the exposure changes and you pick different areas of the scene where you have different exposures. Can you hear that? That's two swans. I should have brought a long lens as well. Beautiful. Okay, let's see. So what I will do here is I was simply using the distance scale on the lens. I will do exactly what the Z6 did. So now I'm focusing here. Let me just see if I can get, there it is. One, and then I'm just moving a little bit back and forth. Another thing that you should be aware of is that if you have something in the foreground that is very fine or detailed, it's very close to you, and you behind that have lots of distance, it would be very difficult for the software to very precisely cut that out. And especially if your lens has just the slightest element or the slightest focus breathing, then it will look very, very funny. Keep an eye out on the exposure indicator, because you don't want to underexpose, and of course you want to set your shutter speed so that you don't have any camera shake. 8, and then a picture of my hand to just separate the series. Hopefully you could see that, but it really is a beautiful scene out there, and I absolutely love this place, especially in the morning. Over there you have beautiful sunlight coming through the trees, really defining the shape of the tree there. So that was 6, and yeah, I was shooting at ISO 400. Let me just see. Yeah, 1/25. This was in aperture priority mode. I don't need to go to manual here because the camera takes care of the exposure, meaning that the first image is the exposure for that image is copied to the other images, the settings, so it's locked. So in Lightroom I have one of the images I shot, as you saw, and if we open up that one, you can see this is what it looks like. It's a blend of 5 or 6 images, and you can see here top left, maybe that's difficult to see, but you have info that it's shot with the Z6, and this is the focus shift with the Z6, so of course that works. And let me just take you to 200% so you can see. If we go down here in the foreground, you can see that is sharp, and also if we go to the far end of the image, you can see this is also sharp. So it has successfully blended, or Photoshop has, but the Z6 has given us input to create such an image like this, which is sharp both in foreground and far, far away. Whether you like this kind of shooting is of course subject to personal preference, but just know that focus shift in the Z6 gives this option. So here we have the series shot with the D750, and it will be interesting to see if Photoshop has been able to merge the images that I manually focus shift. So let's have a look here. And the way it works is so that you have these images that are blended using masks, and this is Photoshop who does that. And you can see the first image is a little bit of the foreground here. The next one is a bit more of the foreground. Then you have the middle ground, and then you have the far, far away. And then there are a little bit extras here to make up the full image. But basically it's only 4 images that gives this scene. And if we go back to Lightroom to have a look at this one, just to see if it's sharp here in the front, it looks like it. This is the little green thing here in the foreground. And if we go far, far away, let's just look here. To me, that also looks sharp. So when you look at the entire picture, this is maybe not the best scene, but you can see it works. So the conclusion is that it actually is possible to do focus shift with your D750. You just have to turn the focus ring manually and make sure you get sufficient images to post-process in Photoshop. Maybe not a big surprise because the Z6 just uses what is readily available, but of course it's more comfortable that the camera takes care of everything. With the D750 it's a little bit more cumbersome. You have to shoot in manual exposure and you have to control
the focus yourself. There is one thing I would like to bring up, and that is you need to have a stable frame. You can see here there was a dog walker, and he was very kind not to walk into the frame, but his dog actually walked into the frame. And you can see I'm just flicking back and forth between the images. When you do that and you try to merge those images, let me just show you what happens. Of course you get a funny result. And here you will see the merged image comes right here. There it is, and you can see here it looks like the poor dog has some of its leg chopped off, and there was also a shadow here to the left. So be aware that if you have moving parts or moving things in the frame, that they of course will be split amongst different exposures that are blended together, and therefore it can look a bit funny. So make sure you have no moving parts unless you want to, of course, experiment and get funny results like this one. That's actually it from me. As always, hope this was useful. Thank you for watching. Take care. Bye bye.